So I might kick off. We're a couple minutes past 2 now. So I will say good afternoon to everyone who has joined us today. I'm not able to see your lovely faces, but I'm sure we've got quite a few friendly faces in the crowd. My name is Vanessa, and I work with Catholic Healthcare. We have a number of people who will be participating in today's webinar, and that is Julie Tremaine, who is our Government Aged Care Specialist, and we have a special guest from the Single Assessment Team, Amanda Crowford, who will be taking us through some of those initial pieces of information around the assessment process. So we also have a couple of other, Robert Savalas, who's here to help with the panelists with some of the questions we might come up with later on. So without further ado, I'll move on. We have Brian Butler has raised his hand. I'll leave that one to you, Ben, if you can see if Brian can help Brian out there. So what we were hoping to cover off with you today is how funding supports your care. So really understanding how the funding has been designed and how it's directly linked to your supports with the goal of keeping you at home for as long as possible, safe and secure in your community. The second part is around understanding the reassessment guidance, when and how to request a reassessment through My Aged Care, and the tips on how to do this effectively. We'll also be then going through and explaining the difference between the funding programs that are available. So the Commonwealth Home Support Program, otherwise known as CHSP or TISP, the Support at Home Program, and all the additional new short-term options. And lastly, we'll be touching on the funding levels. How much do you get, and how does this look in reality when you start to split that funding across different service types? We'll touch very briefly also on the contribution rates. So before we do that, for those of you who aren't that familiar with the Catholic Healthcare Organisation, I just wanted to briefly touch on who we are as an organisation. We are committed to creating a world where older people thrive. We have a mission which is around promoting the dignity, life, and spirituality of older people through connected and inclusive communities. And our values are around courage, compassion, and integrity. And this is the foundation for everything we do at Catholic Healthcare as an inclusive organisation. We also have 12 retirement living communities, as well as 4 senior rental communities across New South Wales. We have 41 residential aged care homes across New South Wales, with 2 in Southeast Queensland. And we provide services across New South Wales to 7,000 odd clients across support, CHSP and support at home programs predominantly. We also offer self-funded or private services for those who prefer to access services privately. We've also been involved in a range of other programs such as Carers Gateway, supporting that carer support service. We are branching out into creating wellness centres. So we have 8, but we actually have quite a lot of other locations, at 40 odd locations, I believe, where we're offering a range of programs, exercise programs, art programs, social outings, and a range of services that are around health and wellbeing. Now, I'm not going to dwell on this slide too much, but this is really important, and it'll be a great slide to reflect back on as you learn through the rest. So many people who might be joining us today are currently accessing CHSP funding, and you may only be able currently accessing 1 or 2 service types. What we often find, and part of my role is really listening to our customers, what I hear very often is that people are not across all the different options and services that are available. Some of these are not available on CHSP, but a lot of them can be. And this is, I guess, the breadth of services you can access through support at home. So you can see a range of services that help with everyday living, whether it's companionship, housekeeping, transport, grooming, things that just help you get around about in the day-to-day life and just live that independency that you'd like. We have clinical and allied health services, So we have our own staff on in-house that deliver nursing services, occupational therapy and physiotherapy. We also have some exercise physiologists and allied health assistants, and they help with our exercise and assessment programs around physiology and physical well-being. We run our group exercise programs, so we have a lot of group, I guess, leisure-based activities, outings, as well as functional exercise programs that are designed specifically to keep people strong, stable, balanced, and flexible, which are all the key things for living well. We offer support for carers, and finally, we have a specialised program for supporting people experiencing hoarding and squalor situations. So that's a little bit about Catholic Healthcare. So I'm now going to hand over to our special guest, Amanda Crowford from the Single Assessment Team, and she's going to talk through some of the ways in which funding links to care and the reassessment program process. Now, I believe Amanda was having some difficulties with her camera, so she is with us, but she's going to just talk to the slides. Amanda, I'm not sure if you've managed to get that fixed. I can't see you at the moment, but I'm going to move on to the next slide if that's okay with you.
Yeah, no, unfortunately, yeah, that'd be great.
You're welcome.
So, hi, everybody. I'm sorry that you can't see my face. My name is Amanda, as Vanessa said, and I'm a regional team leader with Aged Care Assessment Services, and we're one of the assessment teams with My Aged Care. Wherever you are in New South Wales, there'll be a variety of different single assessment services in your area, but we all do the same thing. So the things that I'm going to be talking about today are the same. It doesn't matter who is doing your assessment. So when we come to do your assessment, the level of funding is determined through a range of different things. We do a comprehensive needs assessment, which looks at your life, your health, your circumstances, and we use a structured tool called the Integrated Assessment Tool to evaluate your eligibility, and it will determine your level of funding. The funding will come from the Commonwealth Home Support Program, which is entry-level support, through to the different supported home package levels 1 to 8, with safeguards to protect you if you're on an existing home care package. So, for example, if you are on a level 3 home care package and you are reassessed under the new integrated tool and you come out at a lower level for some reason, you will retain the home care package level that you have. And ultimately, the assessment is about you, and our support plans are designed around what's important to you and your preferences. So no one's going to do anything that you don't want. And it's about looking at your circumstances and what's going to make life easier and better for you. Thanks, Vanessa.
Mm-hmm.
So there's 4 key things that really impact where you sit on that funding level. The first is obviously your health conditions. Can we just,
Yes, sorry.
Coming back, yes. A big one is your health conditions, obviously. And we'll go through a bit further, but we always like it if you can have a health summary or a discharge paper, reports, just as evidence for those things. If you don't have them, we'll just, get that verbatim from you. But the more information we have, the better. The second is how those health conditions impact your daily life. So we look at a range of different activities of daily life, and we look at what you can do by yourself, what you might need a little bit of help with, and other things that perhaps you're not able to do anymore at all. And then we look at the supports you have in place to assist you with the things that are difficult. Do you have a live-in carer? Do you have formal service providers? How reliable are both of those supports to you? Are they sustainable? And we will capture that information in the assessment. And the fourth, which is a little bit like the wild factor, is what we call compounding factors, because there are some things that impact a person's capacity to keep the level of independence that they would like. Things like a decline in cognition, dementia, significant psychological health issues, incontinence that is problematic. A lot of people experience incontinence, but some people are able to manage it more easily than others or with support, and perhaps social isolation or recent fall history. We go on to the next slide. So a reassessment, what we're looking at now is if you've got your assessment, you've been assessed, as most of you must have been if you're clients of Catholic Healthcare, at what point do you look at a reassessment, a change in your situation and be reassessed through the system? The first thing is that a reassessment begins as a support plan review. And this is submitted through My Aged Care. And it comes to the assessing agency that did your original assessment. And we're looking at evidence for a reassessment. And the things that we're looking at to trigger a reassessment, if we could go to the next slide, Vanessa, there are two main things. The first is a significant change in your circumstances. So that might mean that one of those supports that had been providing assistance to you is no longer there. You know, perhaps your partner's gone into care, someone's passed away, there's been a change in a life situation. You may have had a new diagnosis. You may have ended up in hospital. There's been some decline in your frailty, your health, your cognition, or there's some kind of service type that you're needing that you weren't assessed for before. Perhaps previously you were assessed just for support in the home, and now you're needing residential respite care because your carer is going away for a period of time or needing surgery. So the first thing we're looking at for a reassessment is a significant change in circumstances. The second thing, if we can go to the next slide. Vanessa?
Yes. Does that one come up?
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Can your current package or the current support meet your new care needs? So there may be a change in your circumstances, but it may be that your care provider, Catholic Healthcare, is able to meet that change in circumstances. So you would reach out to your care partner, let them know what's going on, and discuss with them to see whether that new care need can be supported within the package of care that you have. And then we'll move on.
Yeah. So I think I'll pick it up from here. Yep. So requesting a support plan review, as Amanda pointed out, this is where you need to have the conversation back with your care partner, which you're assigned to, with once you move on to the support at home program. So your care partner is the first point of contact, and you will work through 3 major steps with them. So one is discussing what has changed and having that conversation with the care partner. They will then work with you around looking at what services you're actually now needing because of the change in your situation, looking at your budgets and seeing if there's ways to adjust and work with your available funds or the funds that you can access. So remember, there's also those 3 additional pathways that you could consider. Maybe you haven't utilised those and they've been sitting available for you to use when you need them. So they're things like restorative care, ATHM funding, assistive technology and home modification, that is. and there is end-of-life funding. So some of these you need to pick up straight away, and some of them that can sit there for up to a year for when you might need them. So there's options that the care partner needs to sit down and really look at the whole picture for you. And then if there is a requirement for you to go through reassessment process because there simply isn't enough funding available for you that you've currently been approved for, they will then work with you and develop a document that can be submitted to My Aged Care, and they can do that for you if that's what you want. So we don't have to do that, but what that means is that we're able to provide My Aged Care with your care plan, your budget situation, which is evidence that you've utilized your budget, and work with you around obtaining any other evidence points that you might need to support your reassessment. And I think I've covered that off. So with the essential documentation, to go through reassessment, they will want to see a copy of your care plan, and they will want to see your budget statement. And what they're looking for there is to see that you are actually fully utilizing your available funds already before you go through a reassessment process. So the care plan obviously outlines for those who've been through a care planning process, it outlines your needs, your goals, the services that you want, and the service activities that you want undertaken, the supports that you have around you, and then the gaps between your needs and the current package is what will be identified through this process. The quarterly budget, as I mentioned, needs to demonstrate that you're using your funds, and that therefore that there are additional funds needed. Also, if you've been able to tap into emergency or urgent CHSP funding, that would also be demonstrated, or if you're paying for additional services yourself. So that information would all be collected and put forward as well. There are options for you to do this privately or through alternative pathways. So you can call My Aged Care yourself and request to be reassessed. In some instances, your GP might be really helpful and also help you with this request for reassessment, or may also call on your behalf. What we do find though is that My Aged Care will always come back to the provider to get the care plan and the budget. So it's best to make sure that we're involved at some point, because that looping around can delay things. So if we're at least aware that you're going through this, you're requesting a reassessment, we can work with you to have the right documentation available for you as well. So that's some of the ways in which you can go about getting the reassessment documentation ready. So I'm going to hand back over now to Amanda.
All right, so you've put your support plan review through, you've got your documentation, and it's been determined that a reassessment is appropriate. So I just wanted to go through 3 things that will really help you, I guess, with the reassessment process. And the first, I guess, is what we discussed before, is having a health summary from your GP. And a health summary just gives a list of your medical conditions and your medical history, as well as your current medication. But if you've got discharge papers or specialist reports, anything like that is really helpful for your reassessment. And if it can be recent, preferably within the last 3 months, that'd be great. And this just gives us objective medical evidence to support your care needs. The second is just asking, and if you don't want a support person, that's fine, but you may want someone to attend the assessment with you. And that's absolutely fine, and we would encourage that. And it just means that there's another person who's listening to what's going on, who can ask questions and give a different perspective as well on the support that you might need. And my third hot tip is just to be honest. I know that, it can be difficult to discuss things that you are finding hard to do, but when we're doing an assessment, we need to know what things are like on your worst day, not just on your best day. We need to know the challenges and the limitations, not just your capabilities, because all of that's going to feed into that assessment tool and give you the best outcome to support your care needs. So it ensures that the assessment actually and accurately reflects your true support needs. So yeah, those are my tips. And just to ask any questions that you have of the assessor at that time, to make notes beforehand about anything that you're concerned about. And I would then be letting your care partner know once the reassessment has taken place. Thanks, Vanessa.
Lovely. Thank you, Amanda. So that finishes up our section on the reassessment process and how the funding aligns, or how the funding process, how you're assessed during the funding assessment process. We're going to move over now to Julie Tremaine, who will be taking us through the key funding pathways and talking more about the different funds types there are and what it looks like for you as you access these different types of funding. So I will hand over now to Julie. Would you like me to move on to the next slide, Julie?
Yes, thank you, Vanessa, and thank you for the invitation to speak today. Welcome, everybody, and I hope today's presentation will demystify some information, answer some of the questions that you've already raised, and give you a better understanding and awareness. So what you'll see in front of you now is a slide which just goes through at a very high level the categories of subsidised aged care funding that you will be entitled to access at a point in time. So you'll see going from left to right, we commence with Commonwealth Home Support Program. And this is an entry-level support program, and it's what we class as single service. So it's a number of different programs that are available, and you need to be registered with My Aged Care. You need to be assessed and approved for a particular service type underneath that. And as we said, it is a basic level entry point for clients that are relatively independent, just need a little bit of additional supports along the way. So after receiving their assessment by My Aged Care and have been approved for different services, it could be meals, transport, personal care, domestic assistance, social support, either individual or group. And there is a personal contribution that is paid. It's a minor contribution to support the development and provision of those services. Now, once you need to have additional supports going through, we then move into what we call the support at home, or what used to be known as the home care package program. And this provides, again, ongoing support services in your own home. They are tailored to meet your needs and goals to ensure that you are keeping safe and well at home. There is in support at home a care management component. Under the Commonwealth Home Support Program, there is not a care management because you're deemed as being relatively independent and not requiring additional or complex care. And under the support at home, you receive a number of funding, which may be from a level 1 through to a level 8, and we'll talk to that a little bit later. But it's always about striving to stay independently at home. And under the support at home, it does have high level grade of funding, which helps you when you have healthcare changes, you have decline, might be short term or it might be ongoing. And it is there to help as your needs increase. And it's about achieving well-being at home. And then the third component, which is our additional support or short-term pathways, which is a point-in-time support funding. And that is all around restorative care and assistive technology and or home modifications. That is around your safety and accessibility in the home. And then we also do have end-of-life care. So it is providing a very short window of support services at a very high level to help you remain at home if you choose to die in your own home. So this is about keeping you comfortable and providing those additional palliative supports and working with the local health district's palliative care teams to support you and your family members so that you may remain in the environment of your choice at end of life. If you'd like to move on to the next one. Thanks, Vanessa. So this slide is giving you a little bit of an indicator of the programs we spoke of earlier. It's what we call a funding hierarchy. And it's showing you how you progress through the different funding levels. So we have higher independence at the bottom, going to higher dependency at the top. So we commence with our Commonwealth Home Support Program, entry level, and that's to maintain and re-enable and try to prevent a creep of frailty. Once you move through that, and we say that's a single service, you move on to support at home. So that is your ongoing support at home funding. Now, whilst we've just got here the support at home funding, Vanessa and Amanda have spoken in regards to our short-term pathways, and you can access additional funding. Under the old home care package, all of your expenditure came under the home care package, but the government has provided additional funding in the short-term pathways to ensure that you can attend to those service requirements outside of your ongoing support. So no longer will equipment purchases or consumable purchases impact on your ongoing support. They will continue, and you can have these additional support services through those short-term funding. So once you've moved through just go back up. There is also the end of life pathway, which is a higher level complexity, which basically means that your support at home ongoing funding ceases and your end of life pathway may kick in if that is something that you elect and you're approved to receive. And then finally, it then moves through to our residential aged care. And so you can progress and choose to take your care needs into a residential home of your choice. And obviously Catholic Healthcare can also provide you with that. So the key messaging here is that for most people, the goal is to stay at home, safe, independent and connected to a meaningful life. We class it as home is my destination. So we're about providing care as you need, when you need, and at the level you need. So let's do a deeper dive. And now we're having a look at just CHSP, or the Commonwealth Home Support Program. As we said, it's entry-level services. And you can see here from the images, the types of services that we are providing and that can be provided through CHSP. It's entry level and it's a lower level tier of support. So it's sitting at around generally $10,500 would be the cap for the services that you can receive under CHSP. It provides support for you to remain independent through social activities, whether it's individual or in group settings, community transport, so enabling you to get to and from different activities or to appointments, your light housekeeping, or known as domestic assistance, home mods, your allied health or clinical services, and meal services as well, whether they're delivered meals or they might be meals that are prepared for you in your own home. So as I said, the maximum annual subsidised budget is approximately $10,500. They're a single service, so each of those types of service and programs need to be assessed and approved for before you can access them through the relevant providers. Looking ahead, CHSP is planned to transition, and it is likely to move to support at home. At the moment, the government has stated that they're looking at July 2027 for this to occur. So they will map across what current services you're receiving under CHSP and align it with the relevant level under support at home for the funding that you need. In preparation for this, we have started moving our services to align with support at home. So what you will see is CHSP services are delivered under clinical independence and everyday living, just as the supported home services are delivered. There will be a number of more information coming through over the next 12 months. This is an evolving space. The government is still in preparation mode. So once we have more information, we will certainly share that with you as we move forward. Thanks, Vanessa.
Just one point on this as well. CHSP funding, one of the other limitations is that it is still a contracted funding type. So you need to find a provider that has the available funds for that particular service. And we know that that can be quite challenging, particularly as more people have come into the service and less people are moving on to support at home with the, contraction in the available funds there. So that's, I guess, one of the downsides of the CHSP funding is finding availability is often quite challenging and quite distinctly different to support at home funding. So
thanks, Vanessa. Yes, so we are limited with the level of funding and the service types that we have. And so if you receive approval for a particular service type or program type, it does not necessarily mean you will have immediate access to that. It is dependent on our capacity at the time, our funding limits at the time. So it's always important to think ahead and plan ahead. So once you start down the process of assessment, you start engaging with providers to see their capacity in which to deliver that service. And in some of the more regional areas too, is understand what regions are covered by different providers. So we cover the majority of New South Wales, but it's always good to just check on certain programs and access to certain services. Thanks, Vanessa.
Okay.
All right, so I just wanted to spend a little bit of time here looking at supported home participant types explained. We have different people coming on board, and people have opted out of supported home or home care packages in the past that may be opting back in. So it's important that everybody understands where they actually sit under supported home. So there's 3 different types: grandfathered. So our grandfathered clients would be those recipients who were either assessed or approved for a home care package on or before the 12th of September. So they would be moving on to a supported home under a level 1 to 4 package. Then there's the transitional clients. So these are clients that were actually assessed or approved for a home care package after the 12th of September, but before the 1st of November 2025. Now, they will still continue and transition across on the home care package level that they were approved for, and that would be levels 1 through to 4. And then the third type is our new clients coming into service. So those are clients that are assessed and approved for a supported home package from the 1st of November 2025. And of course, in that, there are 8 levels, 1 through 8. So the next slide will just do a deeper dive and understand a little bit more of what that looks like.
Oh, sorry.
Yep, you're right. Okay, so here you can see how the funding levels work for levels 1 through 8. And you can see there's a sliding scale of funding available. So our commencement is 10,731, and it scales all the way up to a level 8, that sits at 78,106. So depending on where you are and depending on your care need that has been assessed by the single service assessment team through My Aged Care, you will sit on one of those tiers. And that is what you will be using and talking with your care partners around what services that you require to meet your needs to keep you safe and well at home. So some of the key features that we look at here is that it is means tested. So what that is stating is that your contribution is based on your income and assets. And it will also be based on if you are a home care package or grandfathered client or a transitioned and new. So there are 2 different sliding scales for contributions. What you'll see is that clinical services are free. So those costs are fully subsidised by the government. There are no out-of-pocket expenses for you. So you will not pay any contribution against any of your clinical services. So that could be nursing, allied health, physio, podiatry, speech, a whole series of services and products within that. What we will note too is that as of the 1st of October, personal care will also be transitioning in through to our clinical services. So you will note that you will no longer have to pay a contribution for personal care services, but you will be paying that up until the 1st of October. So the other thing, just going back in regards to the previous slide, thank you, Vanessa, is that 10% of the subsidy is taken and utilised for care management. This is government mandated, and what happens is that goes into a pooled fund, and that can be used by any clients to provide care management. So it won't come out of your subsidised amount, or it comes out of your subsidised amount, and it's there tailored to specifically provide ongoing care management to ensure you're getting the most out of your package. We do have a single provider model, so only one provider can provide support at home services. And your budgets will be allocated to you in quarterly budgets. So 3 monthly budgets will come through and be provided, and that will appear on your statements, so you can see what you have available to spend to manage your services. There is also limited rollover on this. So on the quarterly budgets, where previous under a home care package, all of your unspent funds would roll over. Under support at home, the government is only allowing 10% or 1,000 of unspent funds to roll over at the end of quarter. What that means is they're allowing the unspent funds to be released back to provide more packages to support more people. So what is the key message here? It really is you need to utilise your funds to provide the best quality care to support you at home. If you don't use your funds, you will lose those funds. So just make sure that you really manage those and work with your care partners to get the services that you need. This slide now comes on and provides a little bit more information about those additional funds. So the previous slide was about your ongoing support funds. These are additional funds that you may be entitled to once it has been approved. So assistive technology and home modification, there are 3 tiers here, low, medium and high. And that is all around equipment and home modifications to keep you safe at home. The restorative care pathway, this is a short-term intensive support program, and it's about regaining independence. So for example, you may have been hospitalised for a planned procedure or unplanned following a fall. And this gives you the opportunity to have additional support services on top of your ongoing support at home to ensure that you can build yourself and retrain yourself to build back that independence and gain that, match fitness to remain safe at home. And then the final one there is our end-of-life care pathway. Now that's an additional $25,000 for those people who are wishing to die at home. And generally this is where they have been assessed by their GP or specialist to have life-limiting less than 3 months at end of life. So this is giving $25,000 for a very comprehensive support service for the client and their families, working in partnership with local health district to provide that care. So moving on, we just have a look at the lifetime contributions. So with the lifetime contributions, there are pre 12 September 24, it is 82,000, and post is 130,000. So what that means is, as you are paying towards the cost of your service, your contributions, they are tallied and they basically roll over. So once you meet those caps, you will no longer have to pay for any contributions for your services. And the benefit or the beauty about this is that it also transitions to residential care. So anything you pay whilst under a community or support at home will transition, and that will also go against your cap for residential aged care. Thanks, Vanessa. Now we're going to have a quick look at service categories. So I mentioned earlier that CHSP is aligning through to the support at home. And the reason for that is under support at home, your contributions are impacted by the type of service provision that you receive. So clinical supports, there's zero out-of-pocket expense. It is fully funded by the government. Independence, depending on your pension status and your grandfathered or transition new status, attracts a contribution of 0 to 50% of the hourly rate, which is means tested. Again, independence is all around your social support, your respite offerings, your wellness programming, all of those types of things to support daily living skills, but also maintain and regain abilities within your day-to-day activities. And the final category there is your everyday living, and that attracts between 0 to 80% of your percent contributions, again, depending on what your pension status. If you are a full pensioner, for example, the maximum you would pay is 17.5%. But if you are a full pensioner or self-funded retiree, the potential maximum is 80%. If you're a part pensioner, it is a little bit less. So talk with your provider. They will be able to help you. And Services Australia will actually determine what those contributions will be for those part pensioners. Thank you, Vanessa. So what we're going to look at here is a little bit more detail on what that may look like for you. So 0 out of pocket for clinical. So it's around ensuring that there are specialised services to maintain functional and or cognitive capabilities. All clinical services are delivered by qualified health professionals. So you have RNs, OTs, physios, podiatrists, speech pathologists. There is a number of different individuals that come together in a multidisciplinary approach to provide care for you. And you can see some of the items down there. It is really important that we look at every aspect, so providing a holistic level of care for you to ensure every aspect of life is catered and to ensure the best outcomes for you. Let's move on. Mm-hmm. The next slide is around independence supports. And again, when we were talking about that 0 to 50% of your hourly rate, which is means tested for our part pensioners. So this is all around managing activities of daily living, ensuring that where you have a loss of some skills required to live independently, we can walk beside you and ensure that we're providing those supports. It's not about taking over. It's not always about doing for, it's about doing with, working with your strengths and what we need to supplement for you. So you can see you've got your personal care, you've got showering, dressing and grooming, and that can look different for anybody within their service. We just might move on to our final slide for the everyday living. And again, this is around your general housekeeping, shopping assistance, transport, meals, meal delivery, and home modification, home maintenance to ensure that pathways are clear, that you don't have overhanging branches across your pathways, that type of thing. So it's about services that are done for you rather than with you. It's giving you a little bit more independence there to concentrate on the things you wish to do. So it's about ensuring your home is in a livable state and enabling you to remain independent within your home environment. Just moving on, we might jump to the next slide. This slide is to give us all a little bit more information of what it might look like under different packages. We've just selected a level 2 and a level 5. So Margaret has a level 2, and she's receiving $16,000. So within that $16,000, we can provide her 2 one-hour personal care visits per week, some cleaning, a quarterly podiatrist, and transport. This funding that we're providing for Margaret is targeted support. It's discussed and agreed with her, and it's providing the supports that she absolutely needs and has been identified through the assessment process. So we are only able to provide services that have been approved under the single assessment and under that comprehensive care plan through My Aged Care. But what we can do is when we have those support services, we can move and change and move those around to meet Margaret's needs as they change. Margaret can also access assistive technology and home modification funds on top. And if she requires some support around restorative care, then obviously we can also tap into that restorative care funding. So that gives her options to be flexible around what she wants. And should her needs change, as was discussed from Amanda, if there's been a significant change in her health, a change in her living arrangements, her supports that are around her, then we can go to a support plan review and then a reassessment if required. But we are quite flexible how we can utilise these services. And then we've got Robert, who's on a level 5. He's receiving just over 39,500. So you can see, obviously, his services will increase. So 3 hours of personal care, an hour of social support, house cleaning, fortnightly physio for Robert, and 2 transport trips per month. So this is a mid-range package, which will enable a flexibility around how Robert might utilise his package. And like Margaret, Robert can use the ATHM funding, restorative care funding, to help prevent health decline. So there are 5 key messages here. Support at home is about supporting independence. It's not replacing 24/7 care. We are not in the home at all times. It's about working with you as to what your needs are and what matters most to you. And what matters most to you may change over time. So we are agile and responsive to that. The right question isn't how many hours, but what are my critical needs? What is going to benefit me and get the best outcome for me moving forward? Clinical and nursing care. It can consume budgets really, really quickly because that is a high cost to doing service. So always think about supplementing with other supports. So remember, your GP can also put care plans in place, and you can access allied health and nursing services through those care plans. No one pays any contributions for our clinical care. It is totally subsidised by the government. And you can choose and change providers. There are no exit fees, but I would always encourage you to speak with your provider about your care, what that looks like, and what your needs are. Thanks, Vanessa. This is a table which just gives you a little bit of an indicator of what contributions may look like. I'm not going to do a big deep dive here, but what I will say, when you're looking at this screen, you can see on the left-hand side a number of services that we can provide. So allied health, nursing, in-home, personal, social support, domestic. So to receive that service, 1 hour of each of those services will cost on average around $793. And what you can see, there's 3 columns, a full pensioner, part pensioner, and self-funded retiree. And I've basically gone in and I've put in what those contributions may look like for each of those cohorts. So you can see for $793 for a full pensioner, they will only pay $34.37. For the part pensioner, I've just picked a mid-range 25% and 40% for everyday living. It will be a total of $120 for that same $793. If you are a self-funded retiree, it jumps up a little bit, $243, because the department or the government feels that full pensioners, self-funded retirees are able to pay their way. So what you'll see at the bottom again is our lifetime cap. Once you've reached that, you won't need to pay any additional fees. When you're looking at these contributions as well, these contributions are based on your subsidy package. And remember, if you need additional support services, you can purchase additional supports through private services, and also talk to your provider around where there may be a requirement for CHSP intervention. but that is short-term and limited. Thanks, Vanessa. So here is how your package is assigned. You undertake your assessment, you complete it, you're approved for your level of support at home. The government will then assign your funding package. The funding is then released. Now, what happens here, when the funding is released, you might get a minimum service offering or a full service offering. And we'll talk to that in a little bit more detail. You then need to choose your provider, and you have 56 days in which to elect a provider. That can be extended by 28 days, but you must request that extension. And then once your provider has been elected and you've had the discussion and you've signed your care agreement and you've got your care plan sorted, the services will begin. So the care plan is created and your services commence. And at that point, once that agreement is signed, then you receive your funding. So as I talked earlier about minimum service offering and full service offering, quite often you will receive a 60% minimum service offering to get started. The government is trying to get more people to have more services, and over time it will then transition to 100%. So it's important that under the minimum service, you use the services that are available to you. You will receive 60% upfront, and then over time it will transition to 100%. That 40% does not come back to you after the fact. You basically then transition and start at a point in time at your 100% amount. Thank you, Vanessa. So what we're having a look at here is that sometimes you might not get a full quarter offering. So if, for example, you've come on board and then you've elected and signed your agreement, but you were assigned your funding in January, the beginning of January, but you did not sign your agreement or start your services until February, you will get a pro-rated amount. So you can see where the arrow is, you start here. So effectively for the full quarter, there were 91 days. January was 32 days not funded, or 31, I think we've got a typo there, 31 days not funded. And then basically we then move to February. So then you have the reduced number of days that will receive. So they may have received 9,924 in a full quarter, but because you didn't start until February, that will be reduced by the January period, which will bring your amount down to 6,434. So it's important that we plan the services because there may be a bit of a wait for some services because of the limitation of your funding. Work with your care partner to prioritise, and from the next quarter, you will then have your full allocation of funding. So rollover rules apply. Again, it's 1,000 or 10%, whichever is greater. Thank you. So let's look at the summary, what we need to consider, and just bringing this all together is that start with My Aged Care. Your journey begins with them. This is your gateway into the system. You can apply online or request an assessment. Complete your assessment. So an assessor will meet with you and either at your home or by phone to understand your needs and health matters. Understand your approval. So make sure you are following through your assessment and you understand what you receive as improved services. Is it an approved CHSP? What those programs are, support at home, what that package level is. Take the time to understand them. Choose the right provider. Once you're approved, you need to select a provider to deliver and manage your services ongoing. It's an important decision. So take time to look and understand who is listening to you, who communicates clearly and supports you to get the most from your funding. Choose carefully and plan your supports. Work closely with your care partners and coordinators. Build that plan that reflects your goals, your needs, what matters to you and what helps you stay independent, and use your funding wisely. Your budget is there to support your well-being, but it does require planning and review and adjust. So your needs may change. It's okay. Regularly review those services. And remember, you're not alone. To navigate this with the right information support, you can take control and make very good and informed choices. Thank you, Vanessa. I'll hand back over.
Thank you, Julie. So that brings us to the end of the formal webinar. We have a few questions that have been submitted during the process. I just want to say a quick thank you to Julie for taking us through quite a substantial amount of content, and I hope you've been able to take some notes along the way. We are got a few minutes left, so I will start with a couple of the questions that we've had submitted, and then we'll see. I will also defer back to my colleagues to see if there's any other questions submitted during the session today that we can quickly answer as well. The first one that we had come up is, how can I get more services without necessarily going through the reassessment process again? So I think, I don't know if there's, Julie, did you want to handle that one?
Yeah,
sure.
sure. So you can access different services or modify the way you're utilizing your funding. So you may look at some higher cost program services and look at different ones to ensure that you're utilizing that. Make sure you're utilizing all of your budget. So as long as it has been approved, it's in the My Aged Care Comprehensive Support Plan, we can adjust your services and add and take away as long as it fits within your budget. You can also pay for private services. So if you wanted to add and get additional services without going through formal reassessment, you can pay for those privately. So there's a few different ways you can do it, ensuring you're using your short-term pathway funding if that's also available.
I'd also like to add to that. So sometimes you may have funding available that you're not aware of. And there's 3 ways in which you can actually find out what that is. If you have a MyGov app or MyGov login, you can access and see what funding you've already been approved for that you may not have utilised. You can call My Aged Care and just ask them. Or if you're a client of Catholic Healthcare, we can always help you too. So as a client, we can then look in the portal for you and we can let you know what other funding approvals you might have. So many people get a lot of approvals from the get-go and they don't necessarily need them. So sometimes there's ways to tap into that without having to go through a formal reassessment process. So yeah, we're always here to help. The second question is, if I decline funding, where do I go in terms of the wait list? So I think, I don't know, Amanda or Julie would like to handle that one, just in terms of the waitlist process, if you decline your support at home funding.
Think about it.
I'm happy to answer that.
Thank you.
Yeah, so I'm sorry that you can't see me again, but if you decline your funding, you never lose your place in the queue. So say you come to the top of the queue and you're offered support and you decide not to accept it at that point in time. That doesn't mean that if you change your mind down the track, you come and you phone up and you opt back in again, you actually come back in where you left the queue. You don't go back to the bottom. So it will be, it's all done according to the date that your assessment was completed. And even if you're not seeking services when you first get assessed and you decide down the track, you'll still keep your place in the queue as if you were seeking. I hope that puts people's minds at rest.
Thanks, Amanda. The last question we've got here is, and we'll then see if there's any more that have come through. Do you have to reapply for funding every year? And the simple answer to that, if you're on support at home or CHSP, the answer is no. It is very different to NDIS. So even though it's their under support at home, their quarterly budgets, in most instances, there are a couple of annual budgets, like the assistive technology and home modifications is an annual budget, and that needs to be used within the year. You do have opportunities in some of those additional funds, so the restorative care and the assistive technology and home modification funds, to reapply for funds again in following years. But for your core funding type, whether you're on CHSP or support at home, that will just continue until you decide that you need to go through a reassessment process. So no, you do not need to reapply. So I might just hand over to Rebecca and Ben there to see if we've got a question that's come through from participants.
Sure. We have had one question come through just around, are there any upcoming aged care reforms or funding updates we should be aware of?
Oh, that's a very good one. Julie, do you want to take that one?
Yeah,
I'm
sure.
thinking- yeah.
So the government does a review of the funding, and that will change every July. They will update the funding models, and that's in line with CPI. So they apply an increase annually. So that will consistently change over time. There's no, at this point, information around any significant changes generally to support at home or CHSP. CHSP has been banded to transition to support at home, and it will be aligned with a relevant level of servicing under the support at home. But there's more work to be done and more information to come on that. There is one change where we have our personal care is being aligned with clinical, so there'll be no contributions attached to that. So that is a significant change, and that is a significant reduction for a number of people to keep them well and safe at home. But nothing more at this stage.
That's 1st of October, that one.
1st of October, yes, 2026. So that is imminent. It's coming through. Obviously, as an organisation, and like all other organisations, we do review our price schedules in line with CPI and cost of doing business. So that will happen, and you'll be seeing, for those that are with us, there'll be some changes coming up in July, August. But that generally happens, and you will always be informed. But from the government perspective, limited information at this point.
Yeah, there is one other change which was supposed to occur from 1st of July. It has been delayed, and we're not entirely sure when that will come out, and that's capped pricing. So I believe that's possibly around December, but it's a little bit fluid, let's just say, around the dates for some of these changes. So that was one change that has been delayed, and that will see maximum pricing set for every service type in support at home that each provider needs to adhere to. I think they're the main ones at the moment that we're aware of. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so we might just end it there. Thank you very much for joining. We have recorded today's session, and we'll be looking at ways to distribute that so you can refer to it later, or pass it on to a friend or family member who may also be interested in educating themselves on this complex beast we have called support at home funding. So thank you again for your time today, and we will continue, but I'd love to have some feedback and any topics you'd like us to cover, because we're planning to continue to put out some of these webinars to help with keeping people informed and up to date on how it's all working. So thank you very much. Bye for now.